U.S. President Donald Trump eyes major wins from China trip as Beijing firmly stresses peaceful coexistence. The government promises ride-hailing licenses will meet demand without hurting public transport. And a couple who took their kids wave-watching and plunged into the sea during last year's Ragasa typhoon faces a 3-year good behavior bond. Good evening, you're watching Cable News. I'm Quentin Yan. United States President Donald Trump says he's looking forward to his forthcoming trip to China starting tomorrow, which he believes will deliver multiple positive outcomes. Jeremy Zhu reports.
After 9 years, the U.S. president will once again visit China from Wednesday to Friday. He described China as an amazing country and said great things will happen for both countries.
I have a great relationship with President Xi. We're doing a lot of business, but it's smart business. We used to be taken advantage of for years with our previous presidents, and now we're doing great with China. We make a lot of money with China.
Asked whether the U.S. would continue to sell arms to Taiwan, Trump said the issue would be raised for discussion, adding that he believed Xi would also bring up Taiwan. He noted that the two leaders would discuss the war in Iran and energy concerns, as China imports significant amounts of oil through the Strait of Hormuz, believing that Xi would hope for a swift end to the conflict. Chinese state media Xinhua News has emphasized that it is well established after repeated tests of experience that cooperation between the two nations would be mutually beneficial, while rivalry would prove disastrous for both. According to reports, 17 senior executives from American companies will accompany Trump on this visit, including Tesla's chief executive officer Elon Musk, Apple CEO Tim Cook, BlackRock chairman Larry Fink, and Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
Meanwhile, the Foreign Ministry has released a video calling for peaceful coexistence and closer cooperation with the United States, just as Trump's visit to China approaches. The 2-minute production, titled Peaceful Coexistence, says the world's two biggest powers should treat each other with mutual respect and win-win cooperation, rather than confrontation. It cites wartime cooperation by the Flying Tigers, later ping-pong diplomacy, and joint efforts on counter-terrorism. The financial crisis and Ebola has proved that the two sides have previously worked together. The film turns to today by highlighting a shared economic backbone, highlighting 80,000 American firms, including giants like Apple and Tesla, now operating in China, which the ministry says makes mutual achievement a visible reality. The video concludes with a direct appeal. A ready and open China is right here. It is now for the U.S. to choose the right course. Back to Hong Kong, as the government has yet to set a quota for ride-hailing vehicles, lawmakers pressed officials on their considerations at a Legislative Council panel meeting. Transport Chief Mabel Chen vowed to conduct dynamic assessments to ensure passenger demands are met while not overloading road capacity. Jamie Liu has more details.
At a special meeting of the transport panel, lawmakers bombarded officials with questions about the number of ride-hailing vehicles allowed to operate. Lawmaker Christine Fong worried that inaccurate official calculations and delayed data could lead to a limit that makes it hard for passengers to book rides while threatening the taxi trade. In response, Secretary for Transport and Logistics Mabel Chen agreed that having too few vehicles to operate would lead to a failure of the policy, but having too many could overload the road capacity and causing an impact on the public transport system. She pledged to carry out dynamic assessments and avoid a rigid cap, but gave no indication of how often the figure would be reviewed. Some legislators also wanted to know how ride-hailing driver licenses would be allocated if applications exceeded the quota. Adrian Ho asked if a point system would be used to issue permits and was concerned that licenses could sit idle in the hands of successful applicants. Chen said the subsidiary legislation would empower the Transport Department to use methods such as draws or priority rules for certain vehicles. The transport chief said her department is eyeing facial recognition to ensure licensed drivers use their own registered vehicles for online ride-hailing services. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
A couple who took their children storm watching during Super Typhoon Ragasa last year escaped criminal conviction today, settling their child neglect charges with a 3-year bind-over. The incident occurred on September 23, 2025, when the 40-year-old man and the 38-year-old woman brought their children aged 5 and 9 to the Chaiwan waterfront despite the number 8 signal. A massive wave swept the mother and 5-year-old son into the sea, prompting the father to dive in after them. Though all three were eventually pulled from the water, the mother and son required intensive care, with the boy suffering critical head injuries and aspiration pneumonia. The pair were later arrested and charged with ill treatment or neglect of a child or young person, facing a maximum penalty of up to 10 years imprisonment. After prosecution and defense agreed to resolve the case by way of a bind-over, Eastern Magistrates Court ordered the couple to enter a joint recognizance of $2,000 and be bound over for 3 years, meaning they will be fined that amount and risk further punishment if they re-offend or breach the peace. 8 passengers and 2 drivers were hurt after a double-decker bus collided with a truck in Sao Maoping this morning. Bus operator KMB said the truck is suspected of running a red light. Evelyn Bai reports.
Dashcam footage captured the moment just after 6:15 a.m. on Polam Road. A KMB bus traveling straight through the intersection on a green light was hit by a truck from the opposite lane turning across its path, causing the truck to flip onto its side in the middle of the road. The bus then crashed into a traffic light. Its windscreen was severely shattered and its doors were damaged. Officers cleared scattered debris from the carriageway. The overturned lorry suffered ruptured chassis parts, with dents to its left side and roof. 8 bus passengers with mild injuries sat by the roadside in a conscious state before being taken to the hospital after initial treatment. Both bus and truck drivers were removed on stretchers. The truck was later righted by a crane. KMB's investigation suggests the truck may have run a red light. Part of Polam Road towards Sao Maoping Road was temporarily closed following the crash, forcing vehicles to divert via roundabout. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
Immigration officers nabbed a local employer for allegedly hiring 5 illegal workers for renovation jobs. The 5 black workers, aged 33 to 45 and all mainland residents, entered Hong Kong as tourists. A fellow townsman running a refurbishing firm arranged their travel and accommodation, paying daily wages of $300 to $400 for tasks including debris removal, cement work, painting, and plumbing. The authority noted these untrained workers compromise construction quality and pose serious safety risks. The 6 arrests took place at a village house on Yongyi Road in Tai Po and an industrial building in Kwai Chung. 2 women have been arrested for suspected animal cruelty after a puppy was found abandoned in a Mongkok back alley. Last Saturday, a 3-month-old golden retriever was discovered by cleaners inside a rubbish bin in a lane off Hakpo Street. The puppy's fur was drenched in sewage and chili oil, with its limbs twitching uncontrollably. Veterinary examination confirmed terminal canine distemper, requiring euthanasia. Officers arrested the 2 women on animal cruelty charges and found 3 other healthy dogs at their flat. Investigations are focusing on illegal online dog purchases and smuggling into Hong Kong. The Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals urges the public to avoid buying dogs from unknown sources. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer was hit with increasing demands to step down within his own party after devastating local election results. Jeremy Zhu reports.
Braving a fresh wave of pressure to quit his job after his ruling Labour Party was crushed at the elections, Starmer brushed off doubters and pledged to stay.
And I take responsibility for not walking away, not plunging our country into chaos as the Tories did time and again, chaos that did lasting damage to this country. A Labour government would never be forgiven for inflicting that on our country again.
He vowed to deliver reform, prove his critics wrong and take on any leadership challenge, but the pledge failed to win back support or silence the calls to quit. Over 70 of Labour MPs have asked him to step down or set out a timetable to leave, including Deputy Prime Minister and Justice Secretary David Lammy, alongside Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood. Mahmood joined Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper in calling for an orderly transition, while Lammy huddled with Defense Secretary John Healey on a dignified exit plan. Meanwhile, Labour MP Jess Phillips, who had earlier threatened to trigger a leadership contest, is pushing for a new leader by the end of September and said she already has the backing of 80 MPs. 6 parliamentary private secretaries who publicly pushed for Starmer's exit were sacked, with 4 of them quitting on their own, saying Starmer is not the right person to lead Labour into the next general election. Despite the revolt, Starmer still has support at the top, with Housing Secretary Steve Reed and Attorney General Lord Hermer backing him to steer the party through the storm. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
U.S. President Donald Trump has rejected Iran's latest counter-proposal to end the conflict, even though Tehran insisted the offers were reasonable. Sources say Trump is thinking of restarting combat operations. Jimmy Liu reports.
But more importantly,
Trump said Iran's latest response threatened the month-long ceasefire, saying the truce was at its weakest moment.
I would say the ceasefire is on massive life support, where the doctor walks in and says, "Sir, your loved one has approximately a 1% chance of living."
This came as Iran rejected a U.S. proposal to end the conflict and made a counter-proposal instead. Trump called it garbage and claimed he did not even finish reading it. After Trump's comments, the Iranian Foreign Ministry insisted that Tehran's offers were responsible and generous. Iran's lead negotiator Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf said the U.S. has no alternative but to accept the proposals. Iran's counter-proposal called for an end to the war on all fronts, including Lebanon, and compensation for war damage. Tehran also demanded its sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz to be recognized and an end to the U.S. naval blockade. However, it did not touch on Iran's nuclear program. Trump claimed that Iran had agreed to let the U.S. remove its highly enriched uranium, but changed its mind in the latest proposal. CNN reported that Trump has grown increasingly frustrated with how the Iranians are handling negotiations to end the war. The network cited his aides, saying the U.S. president is now more seriously considering a resumption of combat operations than he has in recent weeks. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
Japanese snack maker Calbee is reportedly giving its snack packets a sudden black and white era after the Iran conflict disrupted supplies of ink ingredients. Once current stock of the color packaging runs out, 14 products, including lightly salted, clear soup, and seaweed salt-flavored chips, will hit shelves in plain monochrome wrappers from the end of the month. The company said the redesign is basically a supply chain diet. Less color but same crunch, as Middle East tensions squeeze supplies of naphtha, a key raw material for packaging ink. It is keeping the design simple to keep products flowing, reassuring chip lovers that the taste is staying exactly the same. Now let's take a look at the stock market. The Hang Seng Index ended the day down 58 points. Top active stocks of the day: Tencent was down $7.20. Kuaishou was up $1. YOFC was up $11.80, while Hua Hong Semiconductor was down $4.50. Foreign exchange against the Hong Kong dollar: Euro 9.18, Japanese yen 49.68. On to the weather now. Mainly cloudy, hot with sunny periods during the day. Temperatures will range between 26 and 32 degrees. A few showers later. That's our news tonight. I'm Quentin Yang. Thank you for watching. Good night.